Welcome back. It's time to finally get into the action phase. With your new understanding of how we can use our breathing to connect to our pelvic floor and core, remember first we need to align our diaphragms so that when we breathe, they will work together. Finding alignment is often referred to as finding your stack, aka stacked alignment of your diaphragm over your pelvic floor. Remember the prior examples of misaligned bowls? We are seeking to find a stacked and aligned position in our body first. So let's explore finding your stack. First, you're going to start with finding your foot. I call this the tripod foot. It's finding the base of your big toe, your pinky toe, and the inner edge of your arch so that you have pressure evenly distributed through both feet. That's going to help us bring our center of gravity back and have a greater chance at easily finding that stack. Now, if you're in a standing position, you're going to think about your ear, shoulder, and hip being in line. We're not overly proud and we're not overly tucked and rounded. We come into neutral. Now, another test you can do is placing your hands to your pelvis. You can put your thumbs on your hip bones and your fingers to your pubic bone. If your pelvis is too far forward, your thumbs will be in front of your fingers. If your pelvis is too far tucked, your fingers will be in front of your thumbs. If you're in neutral, those fingers will be in the same plane. Some signs that you aren't finding your stacked position could be pelvic floor pain or heaviness, feelings of falling out, leakage, loss, activation of your breathing pattern or your activation pattern, or maybe you're feeling exercises in the wrong places like your back. We've played around with our standing posture just slightly. The same is also true for seated posture. But more than just spatial awareness, we need to learn to move the pelvis and the rib cage back in space. This is something people really struggle with who identify with a forward pelvis or an anterior tilt and their ribs up. Once we are in these positions, the focus is on teaching the brain to learn what that stacked alignment feels like so it can choose that pattern more often. And then we will practice breathing in these positions, which would represent an even distribution of the breath to the pelvic floor. Welcome back. Let's explore how we can exactly align our diaphragm, so our rib cage and our pelvis over one another. And it requires a coordination of our abdominal muscles with the muscles in our back body, our hamstrings. Together, those two groups work as a team to create a pelvis motion that can bring our pelvis forward and, more importantly, for most of us, back into a more neutral position. So those hamstrings are going to work on pulling that pelvis out of a forward position, and together with the lower abdominals, they pull up to bring that pelvis back. We're going to start with a movement called the 90-90 hip lift. This is from Postural Restoration, and it is going to require you to have a small children's ball, so just a soft play ball. I'm going to show you with my yoga block. You can also use a pillow or a rolled towel. So something just a little bit like this size in diameter. We're going to place it between our legs. So I want to meet you at your wall. You're going to need that as well. And I'm going to lay down and start to walk you through this movement. Now, I just explained previously that we want our abdominals and our hamstrings to control our pelvic position. And more importantly, your proximal hamstring. That is that hamstring that attaches right here. So you can imagine if that muscle can pull, it's going to help pull your pelvis into a better position back underneath the ribs. So it starts with laying on the floor and finding a 90-90 position of your ankle, knee, and hip. Now, some people who are really struggling with mobility might find this position is too intense for them. So you can decrease your angle if you need to and not be at such an extreme angle, and then work your way up. But for this, I'm going to show you the 90-90 position. So 90 degrees, feet are on the wall. You're going to sense your tripod foot that I talked to you about before. So you're going to feel the base of your big toe, the base of your big pinky toe, and the inner edge of your heel. Now, we're not pushing into the wall with force, but you need to be grounded into it so you feel all of those points, because feeling those points are also going to help connect to hip motion happening. So feel those points initially. Take your yoga block, small ball, or towel roll, place it between your knees. Now, without losing those foot contacts, I want you to first imagine you are gonna drag your heel down the wall, but it's not moving. So as I start to imagine that dragging, what happens is I start to feel my hamstrings activating. And as I pull, I get a little lift and a tuck of my tailbone coming off of the ground. So you don't want to be here. It is a very slight lift that has happened because I have changed my pelvic position with my hamstrings. So 3 contact points on the wall from both feet, hamstrings are dragging, then you're gonna squeeze that ball, block, or your towel roll. And then you're gonna stay here and you're gonna breathe. You're gonna keep your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Jaw is gently touching, if not slightly apart. We're not clenching. And you're gonna take an inhale through your nose. And you're gonna open your mouth like you're fogging up a mirror. Now you're gonna continue on that breathing sequence. And what you're looking to do with that exhale is keep it long and slow. And that's gonna help turn those internal obliques on that I was talking to you about. So together, the internal obliques and the hamstrings are gonna work on that pelvic position. We've created an aligned, stacked position for our ribs and pelvis to work together with our breathing. Now you also have an option to reach an arm overhead. Some people are more rotated to the right side, but this is not something that you absolutely have to start with. Now I'm gonna do this for 5 breaths. Soft inhale, exhale, after my initial exhale, you're gonna see my core has turned on. I'm gonna work on keeping core tension. So I'm gonna maintain this positioning I have and take a soft inhale so that my ribs will expand laterally and into the ground. So maintaining here, inhale. Feel your back press into the ground. All the while, I have not lost my foot contacts, my hamstring drag, and my squeeze of my block. I'm gonna repeat. And carry on like that for 5 total breaths in a sequence before I release and reset. Now, some common issues that people have is they can't put all of the pieces together. And if that's you, that's okay. First, you would just lay here in this position and just work on feeling your foot contacts. And then you would work on adding the hamstring drag. And maybe that's where you work for your first few attempts before you add in the squeeze and the breathing. But sequentially layering on a little bit more complexity will help you find that. If you're struggling to find that nasal inhale, you can slightly elevate your head or neck with a towel or small pillow. We want to keep our airway open. If we are crunched like this with our neck, we're really going to struggle to find the entirety of this. As you exhale, you're maintaining that stack so your rib cage isn't coming down. You could also try a pursed lip breathing to breathe the air out, but sometimes people overactivate the abdominal muscles too much with that. So often a breathy, fogging up the mirror exhale is where you want to start. So 5 breaths in total. Take a break. You would practice that 3 times in a row. I'm gonna see you and show you another option which requires standing at the wall. Explore how we can stack our diaphragms in this standing position. This is also called a 90-90, but it is a wall squat, also from Postural Restoration. Now remember, our goal is to get the ribs not just down, but back in line over the pelvis. So when we breathe, it will work with our pelvic floor. So grab a small children's ball, yoga block, towel roll, anything like that will work. And you're gonna be about a foot away from a wall, placing that ball or block between it. Now with your back against the wall, you're gonna slide down into a squat, and then you're going to slightly start to tuck your tail by trying to find your hamstring. So you're gonna feel the 3 edges of your foot, of that tripod foot, and sit low with your back against the wall. Now, gently start to squeeze the block. We're gonna have our inner thighs turn tension on. So you've got your tucked position. You are gonna start to feel your core turning on. So again, we've got our internal obliques and our hamstrings working on our pelvic position. Now here, we're gonna add a little low reach with our palms facing up. As I do that, my rib cage is going to come back into the wall. Now, I don't want you to reach so much that you're like this. Then we crunch our sternum down and we actually create internal pressure increases here. That's not what we're looking for. Rib cage is back, but not crunching. So slight reach, I slightly round my back, my neck stays in line, it's not coming forward here. And then I'm gonna have the tongue to the roof of my mouth. As I exhale, I'm gonna reach a little bit more. Breathe in again. I'm breathing into the sides of my rib cage and my back and my shoulder blades. I'm gonna exhale. Inhale. Now my sternum was crunching down a little bit. I need to remember to stay more upright as I reach. Release and slide up before you come on out. You would repeat that for 5 breaths total in a sequence. When you exhale, the core turns on. We force the breath into the lateral and back side of our rib cage as we're working on moving back in alignment. Take a break and repeat 2 more times for 3 sets total.